For generations, a Maidu settlement, Indak, thrived in the Sierra foothills. In 1848, that settlement became known as Dry Diggins because of the discovery of gold in nearby Coloma. Not long after that, the growing town became known as Hangtown for obvious reasons. In 1854, another name change, and the city of Placerville was incorporated and remains today. A building made from brick, built in 1860, still stands today, 166 years later. Confidence was built as a fire station. It has been used as a church meeting place, a police station, jail, justice court, and a library. In 1902, it became the Placerville City Hall and remained as such until 2005. Today, Confidence and its sister building Emigrant Jane are more known as Mustard and Ketchup, due to the paint job completed sometime around 2008. Many have asked about the extensive scaffolding on the west side of Confidence. We visited with city officials on site for an explanation.
Hi, my name is John Clarici. I am a member of the Placerville City Council, and I am presently the mayor of Placerville. Hi.
Hi, I'm Dave Warren. I'm the city manager of the city of Placerville.
Hello, Gregory Horsfall, building official, city of Placerville.
All right. We're here today because we've been talking an awful lot about Old City Hall, affectionately known as Mustard and Ketchup. And the reality is that a lot of people haven't been inside these buildings for many years now because they haven't been City Hall for like 20 years. And so I thought it would be a good idea to come into the buildings and tell the story of these two buildings, mostly this one that we're standing in right now, which is called Confidence or Ketchup, if you like. And tell the story of it, how we got to be where we are, some of the issues with it, and then what may be happening in the future to help fix some of the problems. So that's what we're going to try to do today. And we have two really smart people here. Dave Warren, who's been around for a while and understands some of the history, and Greg here, who's our city building official. And Greg should say what he does as a building official.
As a building official, I'm responsible to enforce the building standards set forth by the California Building Standards Commission. Beyond that, I inspect every building in the city for standard conditions, health, safety, and buildings such as this that may be at risk of imminent danger.
And what are your qualifications to do this?
My qualifications consist of certifications from the International Code Council.
Okay.
I am a career student of building safety codes and have obtained a certification as the Master Code Professional and one of the youngest in the planet.
Wow. All right. So that's all very good. So we're going to walk through a few things here. Obviously, if you've been, everyone sees the outside. They see the scaffolding on the west wall of Confidence. Inside here, you can see we have all of this going on that is helping hold up the building, essentially. There's two issues here. One is that wall, which we will get into in a moment, and then the roof, which is but they're all kind of connected to each other. And if you look over here, you see all those bricks. That's the original building right there. When you talk about this building and its history, that's it right there. Those bricks, that wall, which was built in 1860, if I remember my history correctly. Its sister building over there, the Emigrant Jane building, was also built around the same time.
Essentially, we hired a roofer to re-roof the building, and when the roofer went to inspect the roof to place the material on the roof, he discovered it was structurally compromised, and alerted the city that he was not comfortable placing the material on the roof because of it.
Okay.
So the roofing materials that we wanted to use to sheathe the roof were too heavy, and there was an issue with the thing. But this actually goes back even further than that. Some of the concerns about this building have been brewing for quite some time. As far back as I think into the 1990s, I believe, we got a report about the wall, settling in the wall and settling in the foundation, and it resulted in some cracks. In fact, There's one back here, and we'll show that to you in one of these moments. So there were cracks in the walls. If you go upstairs, there's cracks that you can see through to the sky. And that was the beginning of it. And then over time, more and more things were revealed about the structure until the roof issue came, and that brought it to a head. And the building was declared uninhabitable, I think, at that point. And everybody moved out. There wasn't anybody here well, arts and culture was. So that's it. So the roofing issue was kind of the thing. And then at that point, we said, okay, and this didn't happen that long ago either. Like
2022.
Yeah, like 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, that's when this happened. But it was the end of a bunch of things that came to our attention about the building.
Yeah, the geotechnical report you're referring to was from 1985. It was performed by Youngdahl Geotechnical Engineering.
A local outfit.
The coring samples showed that there were bedrocks of slate, and beyond that, it was completely stable. So the settlement that had happened was a slow settlement that occurred over a long period of time, actually. And to address the roof concerns, when you have an older building such as this, the roof coverings have changed. We used to have tile and slate roof or even metal roofing. And most contractors want to lay a new substrate over the roof construction. And what that does is increase the dead load significantly. And when that happens, the old walls do get stressed and pushed out.
Right.
So if I was a roofing contractor and I was on top of this roof and I wanted to load it myself, I would have extreme concerns about the integrity of that upper wall holding the roof up.
And I guess maybe what we can talk about too is just the way that this building was originally constructed. And there's a unreinforced masonry wall here, 17 inches thick, I think, and all the way up. And there are slots in the wall where the floor goes over and rests on.
Correct.
And so there's one down here on the floor. We're on the first floor, by the way. There's one for the second floor, and you can, if you look up in there, you can see it. And then there's one for the roof. And the roof weight was pushing that wall out, if I remember your explanation to me. And that was the issue. And so the idea would be if it went out far enough, it would no longer be purchased in that groove, or I'm calling it a groove. I'm sure there's a better construction term, and it would go down. Potentially.
All of that is true.
Yes.
I would like to point out that the roof framing has already detached from the wall.
Oh,
and it is no longer bearing on the wall. It's only bearing on the perimeter itself.
Oh, okay.
But more exactly, it's just the roof itself, not necessarily the floor, that is detached from the wall.
Right. So the issues are up at the top of the wall. In here, it might still be okay. In fact, it probably is okay.
Correct.
We don't want to overstate
It's all full
the
bearing
issue.
on the floor frame.
Okay. So then maybe what we can do then is describe what all of this is behind us here. Because right now, all of what you see here is what is bearing the load for the floors and the roof. And there's more of this upstairs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's picking up most of the load for the roof itself. What we're looking at here is load transfer through the floor itself, because we do have to take that pressure down to the foundation.
Right.
Hence all of the scaffolding and the steel beams.
Right. And there's more some of this is in the crawl space as well. There's something underneath that looks a little like this.
Yeah, that dead load transfers all the way to the foundation.
Okay, great. So that's important, and it also is, I think it's important because it informs the solution.
It does.
Okay.
When you see all of the scaffolding here, one would assume that it is holding up the floor above us. But it's truly not. The floor above us is still bearing on the perimeter wall in the original location. Right.
But so we have this here. Now, folks, if you walk past these buildings, of course, you don't see and hear much. I guess you look in the window. But if you're outside, you see kind of the same thing, looking at least, on the outside. What is that doing? What's the scaffolding and the wood on the outside of the west wall doing right now? What is its mission?
Right now it is serving two purposes.
Right.
The first purpose is to definitely provide bearing and load transfer for the roof itself.
Mhm.
The second is to prevent any sort of deflection, further deflection and separation of the upper floor wall.
Right, okay, so it's literally pushing against the wall to keep it where it is.
Secondary.
Secondary,
Yeah,
okay.
primary, taking the load.
The
from the
load,
roof.
that's the most important thing. Okay, great. Is there anything else? I mean, I don't know. What else do we want to talk about? I mean, we definitely want to get into ultimately the proposed solution, because that's important for this discussion, to talk about what is being proposed and how and why, and then some of the next steps. But is there anything else here? I mean, do you want to look at some of this? You might want to, I don't know, the big crack?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The solution is going to be the same as the temporary fix right now.
okay.
All the scaffolding on the interior and exterior of the building is taking the load from the roof all the way down to the ground.
Right.
The solution is to provide the same conceptual idea to continue to provide integrity for the roof itself, and we're also going to tie that upper veneer, which is 17 inches thick, back to the wall.
Okay.
It is important to note that the weight of the brick itself is stabilizing.
Okay.
What I mean by that is the roof and the wall are no longer pushing itself
Right,
out.
right, because this and other bits in here are actually carrying all that load all the way down to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
The cause of
Yeah.
the issue has been eliminated.
Has been eliminated.
Temporarily.
Temporarily. Okay, so then, okay, so in theory then, so can you describe what the solution might look like? You know, I've always called it the wall inside a wall. That we're going to build some walls inside of the brick wall, and that will carry all the load. Okay, kind of what will that be like?
What that would look like is taking something similar to this,
Right.
shrinking it down to
This-
this size,
yes.
placing it slightly away from the wall. We
Proximate.
want a little bit of an air gap
Right.
to eliminate any moisture. And anything on the first floor will just be supporting that wall inside of a wall on the second floor.
Okay, okay,
What we're trying to do is provide additional bearing surface area for the roof above.
okay. And there would be a similar thing on the second floor.
Yes, and it's only going to be there to transfer the load from that new wall
Right.
down to the foundation.
Right.
What we're doing is eliminating any of the load off of this masonry wall entirely.
Right, right. Can you describe the two things behind you there? There's obviously a place where they got in there, and that was actually part of a test. So the thing on the left was when they tested the brick and whatever cool testing things they did. The thing on the right is apparently a patch from days gone by. We're not sure what happened there, why there's a hole there, why was there a hole there, lost to history, but that'll just give you an idea of that.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead,
These
keep
test
going.
areas here, this is brick shear test number 1. They're testing the integrity of the brick,
Yeah,
how it is interacting with the rest of the multi-width masonry wall here.
right.
The common issues we experience are the lime
Right,
leaching out of the mortar itself, so it's losing cementitious material.
right.
They're testing this here to see how much movement these bricks would have. It's common practice to do so when you're considering replacing the mortar or any of the joints. Industry terms would be repointing the bricks.
Repointing. I've heard that
themselves.
before, repointing.
And this wall would definitely need a lot of repointing.
Okay,
This wall and other walls themselves.
right, okay. And I guess that does bring us to another subject, and that is the idea. There are folks in this, well-considered folks in this community who say that all you have to do is repoint that wall. And I'm not even sure how you do it. When I found out it was 17 inches thick, it was like, whoa, okay. But I'm not an expert, I don't know those things. Then you could repoint that wall and you'd be fine. And you could leave the building and you could rehabilitate it, and is that okay?
It is in certain situations.
Right.
For this building, absolutely not. This exterior wall, even though it is extremely strong,
Right.
given its age,
Yes.
the width makes it so solid that it's the load from the building or the roof down in this location is irrelevant considering the weight of the wall itself.
Yes.
That's imposing
Oh,
on itself.
okay.
So repointing these bricks is not going to solve the issue of deflection and
Okay.
separation of the wall.
Okay, all right, thank you very much for that, because that's an important thing that we have discussed in other venues, and so I just thought I'd get that out. Okay, so we've kind of talked about the issues, and it's pretty straightforward. And the idea of the wall, inside of a wall, and what that would do and everything. But what are the next steps, like in that process? Because one of the thing that got us here ultimately was we had to replace the roof because it leaks. And if you go to other parts of the building here, and then over into Immigrant Jane, the mustard, it leaks. And so we want to solve that problem, but we can't solve that problem until we do this. Okay, go ahead and walk us through that, please.
Yeah, the first phase of the project is going to be the removal of the temporary scaffolding.
But the only way you can do that, though, is if you fixed the problem, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Which is segueing into the first phase.
Yeah.
Which is going to be reusing some of the components from the temporary scaffolding that are already in place.
Right.
If it was good enough to hold it up for this many years now, it's going to be good enough to hold it up for years.
Decades.
Decades, probably.
Centuries.
Correct. Especially after we, not necessarily stabilize the wall,
Right.
but replace the wall with a new bearing wall.
Right.
So the first phase is going to be getting the scaffolding removed, getting the wall stabilized itself,
Right.
providing,
And that'll be a structure.
it will be a structure.
Okay.
It'll look no more than any other wall in this building.
Right, when it's finally done. Okay. And that's really critical. The other critical point, and we didn't mention this earlier, is that when all this work is done, not whatever ends up happening on the insides of these buildings, that is a separate discussion. But when we stabilize the wall and we put the roof on, if you're walking by on Main Street, the only thing you will notice is that there's no scaffolding outside.
Correct.
That's all you'll know. The outside of these buildings will look the same as they did before we put the scaffolding.
Yeah, there might be additional hardware.
Why don't we talk about that? Explain that, please.
The hardware that you would typically see on these unreinforced masonry, they do range in sizes and shapes.
Right.
This is a modern solution for walls that are losing the integrity of the mortar. What they're doing is you're seeing a decorative washer on an anchor that's going to be holding the wall back in place. That anchor is going to span across the building and it's going to tie into the most structural portions of this building and the space next door.
Okay. So if you've walked around Placerville and some of these old buildings, and they might even have them on the Oddfellow.
They actually have it on this building at the very top,
At the very top.
right where the roof frame is.
But if you walk around Placerville and some of these older buildings, you'll see like a bolt, the end of something. I'll call it a bolt. Comes out, and then there's something on there. Sometimes it's decorative, sometimes it's utilitarian. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes they're this big, sometimes they're that big. It kind of depends. We will be seeing that on the outside of this building.
You will.
Okay, great. So that means we'll have a wall inside a wall holding everything up. The outside wall will be pulled back over and stabilized. We get rid of all of this stuff, and then whatever happens on the inside can then happen.
It can.
Okay.
The concerns of imminent collapse no longer exist.
Well, that's what we're shooting for here.
Yes.
Getting rid of that. Okay, that is excellent. So those are the next steps. So the next step is stabilizing, getting rid of this, getting that done. Then the city has an obligation to put a roof on these buildings. We had committed to it before. We have all the materials. So we're ready to go. Once we put a roof on the building, then we get to the next steps of what's going to happen next. So, next steps. First, I guess before next steps. One of the things I think that's a virtue of the stabilization project, as we were discussing off camera, is it shouldn't take that long. And we have a lot of material sitting here that we could reuse. Because the city owns all this, by the way, the trapeze here. And we own all that. So we might be able to reuse some of this material in this effort. And it could be like weeks or maybe a month. If we said, yep, and we got the money and we've got people, a contractor to do it, it could actually get done fairly quickly because it's not a real complicated thing. The tie things, that's another issue. But even that, a lot of time for that?
Not a lot of time at all.
Okay.
The stabilization conceptually is going to consist of exactly what's here.
Right.
And if we already have the materials, then as soon as we do receive the funds and the labor,
Okay.
the commencement of the project shouldn't take more than 2 to 4 weeks.
Great. And that's very exciting because sometimes when you get these things, the way the government works is like, well, that'll take 10 years before you're done. And nobody wants that. You can't, it's hard to get energy behind that. But I think if folks understand, this is a project that if it gets funded, and we'll talk about that in a moment, if it gets funded, it could happen fairly quickly. We could stabilize this building, save it, put a roof on it, stop it from leaking, which is also contributing to some of the degradation of the building. And then whatever happens, happens. Okay. And that gets me to my next thing. And what is next? The city of Placerville and Arts and Culture El Dorado agreed a number of years ago on a proposal provided by Arts and Culture for them to go off and do fundraising and assemble resources, and those could be contractors or materials, whatever it is, to do this project, the stabilization project. And then, of course, following that, stabilization, new roof, then they would come back into the building. They have plans. You can go to their website and learn all about their proposal for these two buildings on the inside. So that's it. But this thing with Arts and Culture now is really the next really big important thing. We're going to get some final engineering. At the time of this video, we're a couple of weeks away from getting the final engineering that'll give us all the whys and technical wherefores and all of that regarding the structure that we're going to have to build inside here to stabilize the building and the roof, and a cost estimate. And then it's going to be a matter then to just get that money together and do it. Arts and Culture El Dorado, they're out there raising that money as we speak, and we should support that effort because that effort will save this wonderful building that we have here in town. And then get it to a use where we can actually use it. Right now it's kind of a, warehouse, I guess. We store things here. There's beer mills over there. It's really kind of neat. Anyway, that's it for now. Greg, thank you so much. Dave over there off camera, thank you as well. That's this. This is it for Old City Hall and all that we're doing.